Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait a few minutes for everyone to join before we kick off here, but maybe in the chat, everyone could share where they're dialing in from today. I'm coming in from Costa Rica.
This is my favorite game at Deal All Hands, by the way, because you like people from Zimbabwe, and all those really unique places.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
really cool to
cool.
see. Yeah.
It's my favorite part of remote work. Australia is such a multicultural place. So I'm used to being around so many different cultures, but remote work is definitely amplified and it's super fun.
Super fun.
Okay. Wait one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, we're going to kick things off, and as everyone joins in, please feel free to add where you're dialing in from. I'm excited today to be joined by Noah and Jared. Before we get into the webinar, I'd love you both to take a minute to introduce yourselves, your background, where you're dialing in from. Noah, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll make sure this is worth your time. I'm Noah. I'm the Chief of Staff for the CEO at Deal. I've been with the company for 3.5 years now, all in the same role. So, I've kind of really side scaling from I was employee 1,500 and we're over 7,000 now. I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. My background is pretty wide, both in product and operations, hence the chief of staff role, which is a whole other webinar. What is it about? And yeah, excited to be here today to speak about focus. Huge, huge priority for Deal.
Thank you, Noah. I appreciate that. Jared, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, nice to see everybody. I'm Jared Brown, CEO and co-founder here at Hubstaff. So we started Hubstaff back in 2012 with the mission of enabling remote teams to be able to run themselves as well as, or even better, as in-office teams run. And really, have been big believers in that mission for over a decade now, which is that teams can do their best work from anywhere in the world, hiring the best people from anywhere in the world. And that's what we love to do.
Yeah, very thankful. As I said, I'm calling in from Costa Rica, and this will be my fifth year at Hubstaff. So it's been a wonderful journey. All right. So today's webinar is about focus being the new KPI. This is something we believe at Hubstaff. And as we all know, meetings are eating it alive. I'm sure your calendar looks like confetti. So does mine. And if your team feels busy but not wildly productive, you're not imagining it. We're seeing similar trends across our data. And today you'll hear some data points from our survey that included 140,000 team members across 17,000 organizations. Focus time is consistently the scarcest resource. And meetings plus tool sprawl by quietly slicing days into fragments, so getting, 15-minute slots in between the day to do your work, it's not productive. And this session is really about understanding what are the practical moves. We don't want vague advice today, and Noah and Jared are definitely not about vague advice. They're going to be giving you some practical new moves and hopefully some oh wow moments, some moments that you some feedback you didn't quite know, some practical advice you weren't aware of, and hopefully you can take this straight back to your team and start working a little bit more productively. Now in the chat, I'd love to hear what's the one meeting in your calendar that you would delete tomorrow that nobody would even notice. Okay, while we're getting those answers, I might pull up a little bit of a benchmark pulse. So this data has come directly from our report. What we've seen and some of the highlights. And just spoiler alert, you don't need to screenshot this. We're going to send you our report plus a couple of free PDFs with some benchmarks. So deep focus is averaging at 39% a day. So that's 2 to 3 hours of focus a day. I'm sure we can all attest to if you get 2 to 3 hours of focus time a day, how productive you are within that time and what you can actually achieve within that time. Now, within hybrid, we're actually seeing the lowest amount of focus time. So 31 in comparison to 41 for remote and 45 for office. So we want to dig into that a little bit deeper. We're also seeing roughly 30% of meetings land between 9 to 11 a.m. Now, I'm sure you can all agree that's some of your most productive time in the day. And we're also seeing 30% of those meetings slip outside of the 9 to 6. So we want to double click into that and understand why that's happening and just quickly check that that's still, we still have this beautiful balance of life and work. So, how did we go in the chat? What is that one meeting that everyone wanted to delete? Okay, I can't see many here in the chat, so maybe we'll go to run our poll. I'd love to know from everyone what's stealing your team's attention right now. Is it meetings? Is it tool overload? Simply time zones? Or just too much work and not enough people? Okay, tool overload is taking over. Oh no, meetings are catching up. Okay, so 33% are saying, 40% are saying meetings, tool overload, and just too much work, not enough people. I'm glad to see that time zones is not up there. I think we've grown. Last year when we ran a survey and we asked what was, stealing teams' attention and what was causing issues with productivity, time zones seemed to be a big one. So it seems as though we are growing. Okay, let's jump straight in. Now, Jared, when you see those benchmark numbers, what really feels like the root cause there and why?
Yeah, I think the thing that struck me here is focus time is really lower than I would have expected it to be. I remember back when we first started Hubstaff in the early 2010s, it was rare to have a day when you worked from home. Most people at that time were working in the office, and I felt like people would share, maybe you had a doctor's appointment and you say, I'm going to work from home that day on a Friday, do the doctor's appointment, and come home and work. And the finding that I would have, and I feel like a lot of people would share, is you really focused a lot. That you were able to get a ton done. There weren't a lot of distractions. It was almost like a superpower that you discovered back then. Of I could just be headphones on for 5 hours and knock out so much more than I did in the office, where you might get 2 hours at a time, get pulled into a conference room, then people are talking about lunch. Let's go to lunch. You get stopped at the water cooler, filling up your water bottle. Just, you filled your day. The gaps were filled with work, but it was built around the other things that would happen in the office environment. At home, it was all about work. And I do feel like now we've brought a lot of that distraction that we had in the office. We've recreated that to an extent at home. You've got Slack or Teams pinging you throughout the day. You probably don't go more than 5 minutes without some sort of message coming up there. You've got emails coming in, you've got calls getting scheduled because it's so easy to have a conference call now. So I feel like we have taken some of the baggage from the office and brought it to the home environment. And I kind of wish for the earlier days where we could just be heads down for 5 hours plus.
Yeah, I hear you, Jared. I mean, Noah, when you look at those numbers, which one's most familiar for you with Deel? What are you seeing as a main leadership issue this quarter?
I can definitely relate to what Jared just mentioned. And I would say the one that resonates with me is too much work, not enough people. But I would say not because it's true, because it's a feeling a lot of workers get because of the nonstop Slack messages and the emails and the tools and the WhatsApps and all those communication channels and tools that are kind of sending signals to you or project that you could participate on. And especially in hypergrowth companies such as Deel when essentially there's so many opportunities of things you could be doing, people just feel overwhelmed. And sometimes that actually makes them feel like there's too much work. When if you actually focus on what they actually do need to achieve, It's not that much. It's very much achievable and within their scope. They're just getting confused and overwhelmed by the amount of communications. So I would say a huge company priority for us is making sure that everyone is fully aligned and focused on what they need to achieve. It's also about focus time, but not just about focus time. It's about knowing what are your KPIs, what are you expected to achieve, what is your performance based off, and at the end of the quarter, what you will be evaluated on. If you achieve those things, this is what you do, then you'll be good. And I think that's a huge, huge company focus, making sure that everyone is steering the boat in the right direction, and not being overwhelmed by the amount of possibilities.
Yes, it's so true. And I think when we look at focus time as a KPI, it really is about that weekly rhythm at scale. And we've talked about focus being scarce and meetings landing in that prime focus hour. I really have learnt to protect my calendar, and to make sure, like when I'm joining those meetings at those early times of day, it's only because I really have to have that time zone overlap at that time, but it's not a meeting that I can push later into my day. Um, okay, so we want to get extremely practical here. Jared, what are the non-negotiables? I talk about protecting my calendar, but what are the non-negotiables for stopping meeting creep, and also for carving out real protected focus time? Because I know that's one of the things that we really push for here at Hubstaff.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll give you three actionable thoughts to take back to your teams. Number one, I'm a big believer that everybody in the company should, for some portion of their day, be doing, not talking, but doing. They should be acting as an individual contributor. I even do this all the way at the top of our company here at Hubstaff. I really value being able to put the headphones on for an hour and work on a document to capture a new policy that we want to put into place, or even work on a new way to run one of our departments. Maybe it's improving the meeting cadence within the sales team, and what does the agenda for our weekly sales call look like, and putting that down on paper. So the reason I think this is important is because it is the managers that pull the makers into the manager schedule. And they're the ones that are usually in the positions they're the boss. And so if the boss wants you in these meetings, it's hard to say no. And I think the biggest way to defeat that is to make sure that your managers are also makers. So they do have, call it 20% of their schedule on the maker schedule. So that's number one. Number two, put meeting requirements in place. So have there be a cost, and not just a cost to have a cost for meetings, but to make sure that you're driving value and action from them. So require an agenda. If somebody's going to schedule a meeting, they need to put in the description what the agenda is, what the goal is. It needs to be clear to all the attendees ahead of time. So it's not just well, we're going to get together to discuss what the goal should be. No, we need to know the goal and the agenda up front. Um, Otherwise, use some asynchronous communication channel to figure things out. And that really is my number three tip, and something we did even in the early days here at Hubstaff. We didn't have time for a lot of meetings. We had very few people. We're producing a lot of code, a lot of product. We used asynchronous videos and documentation as a superpower, as a way to avoid these 30-minute meetings. You can convey a lot in a 5-minute pre-recorded video that you can toss over to a coworker. They can share it with people. It's now an artifact that's reusable. And it's only 5 minutes, and they can watch it on their schedule, not you interrupting with a synchronous meeting. So send some asynchronous videos and write some documents, and try using that as a way to communicate over doing meetings.
Yeah, I mean, we still do that, Jared. Show and tell is a channel on Slack, and it's designed for that, that the Hub staff team can share projects they're working on. But also it's a big part of our culture here. This morning, I just recorded 2 looms for our sales team on a new tool that we're using. So, no, if Jared proposed those 3 rules at Deal's scale, would you copy and paste, or would there be elements that you would need to change for Deal?
I would absolutely copy and paste for Deel. I think this is definitely the basis of Deel being a fully remote company. I would add and say, pretty much as Jared said, the default is not having a meeting. Having the meeting is the exception. And if you have a meeting, you have to justify it either by an agenda and absolutely by follow-up and tracking. Just having a meeting, if it doesn't have action items and follow-up, doesn't justify itself. Another rule that we have at Deel is we don't have weeklies. I mean, we do have weeklies, but the default is not having weeklies. If you need something, you get on a call, you get on a Slack huddle right away, and you just solve it. You don't wait for a full week and collect all the topics to sit with your managers. You just solve it. It reduces the meetings and it also increases the speed of execution. So that's another really cool tip. Um, and I had another one which I forgot. Oh, and Slack culture, as Jared mentioned, just being very much async, writing everything. We have a very strong Slack communication culture. We open channels for pretty much everything. Every escalation with a client has a Slack channel, for example. And today, in the world of AI and tools, Slack is actually connected to my Claude, and I can ask Claude, please summarize everything that happened in this channel in the past week or in the past 24 hours, and I can get everything that is happening, and I don't need a meeting and I don't need an update. So really kind of leveraging AI summary tools in order to stay on top of things, reducing alignment meetings necessities.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the elements that Jared mentioned was, typically sometimes this maker time is disrupted by leadership. And so in a fast growing org like Deal, where do these focus rules usually break? And what have you put in writing to ensure that focus time is something that really is preserved?
So great question. You're absolutely right. I think the leadership has to set an example by one, not having recurring meetings that are not absolutely essential. I can also share our leadership does not favor presentations or decks. If we have a meeting, we make sure that it's not just someone presenting and everyone listening. You can do that in a video. It's actually, we use it for discussions and working times. By the way, same thing with offsite. We almost have no presentations at offsite. Everything is workshop oriented and really, really kind of emphasizing working time and collaboration. Everything that you can do on video, the leadership really releases and make sure that it's on video. So really setting an example by setting leadership standards. And I will say another thing that we did as a company that really helps. We have public KPIs for everyone at the company. So everyone knows what everyone to the individual worker level needs to achieve in the quarter. I'll caveat, it's not rolled out to everyone yet, but it's about half of the company at the moment. And I think that really helps because you can go to your manager or to your managers and say, this is what I need to achieve. In order to achieve that, I need X time and X resources. My time is being consumed to other places. Please help me. So it really creates collaboration and discussions around an agreed upon in advance a set of KPIs, and it makes sure focus stays on the right things.
Yeah, and radical accountability, right? If you know what
Exactly.
the organization is expecting of you, then you can really be accountable for that and use that as a way to push back when you're straying from the plan. Okay, so
Exactly.
with all that said, Jared, maybe you could start us off here, but what would be one sentence that you believe belongs in a team agreement to protect focus time?
Yeah, we value and prioritize action over discussion. It is better to do something than to spend too much time discussing it, even if it's not the perfect choice. That's the beauty of, we're in the software world. We can continue to iterate and improve it. We don't have to be perfect right out of the gate.
Thank you, Jared. Noah, what would be your one sentence?
Can I choose two? Can I have two?
Go on then.
One would be meeting is the exception, not the default. Definitely ask yourself first, why do I need this meeting? What do I want to achieve? Can I achieve it in any other way, which is faster and less time consuming? And the second would be you own the result. You own the result, you own the KPI, do what you need to do in order to achieve it. Essentially, at the end, you'll be evaluated based on performance and results. So eye on the prize, stay focused on what you need to achieve.
I love that. Yeah, accountability's got to be a big one, right? With a large organization at scale, if everyone can be more accountable, then we'll get to that end result. Okay, so the next segment is going into how to navigate this new normal. So, across our data, we see that 30% of meetings happen out of 9 to 6, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad culture. For global teams, it often reflects a new normal. So, collaboration across time zones, customer coverage, and uneven peaks in workload. For example, I work with a gentleman called Jolt in Romania. So, there will be days in the week where I will get up and start work at 6 a.m. But for me, that's not a problem. I'm a surfer. I'm up early. To get up and have a chat with him and align with him early in the morning is no skin off my nose. So, I think what we're trying to say here is yes, these meetings are happening outside of 9 to 6, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we still need to be mindful that it doesn't become the norm, as in it's expected for me to be online at 6 a.m. to connect with Jolt. So the question is, how do we keep flexibility genuinely flexible? So late nights are respected and optional when possible, and never just quietly expected by the organization. So Noah, when a company says they're flexible, what does that really mean for a global team?
So I can testify for a deal. We are truly flexible. It does not, unless you're in a role that requires a specific time zone, such as a shift for customer support in LATAM, for example. But a role such as myself and most roles, it does not matter really where I'm in the world. I've done my job from Thailand, Mexico, Israel, and Europe. So pretty much anywhere on the globe, as long as I have accountability for the results of my work, and I make sure that I unblock and everyone else, so that when everyone is waiting for my inputs, I unblock them and make sure that everything is rolling. And that flexibility is actually, if you think about it, huge leverage for productivity because anywhere, anytime, someone is working and unblocking others. So it's essentially 24 hours kind of shift of execution. And we don't look at time zone at Deal. I mean, you can work from anywhere and be anywhere as long as you unblock your team and you provide the result that you're expected to provide. Um, Having said that, we do respect time zones and we do respect off working hours and understand that everyone needs to have their quiet times. Unless something is extremely urgent, you're not expected to reply. And there's a definition of what urgent is. A customer escalation is urgent. But an ongoing project that has been going on for a few weeks, that's not urgent. So every team kind of have the flexibility to define what's urgent and what's urgent. And we respect if something is not urgent and it's not required to be responsive during off hours. And again, those off hours may change if you're in Australia or moving to somewhere else.
Yes, because the deal team travels, and so those operating hours shift. Aside from the urgency, what other operating rules or habits make that work day to day for deal?
Um, we we have everything that is company ceremony, such as all hands. We hold it in two time zones. So our all hands meeting, which happens weekly, we hold it for APEC hours and for non-IMEA hours. So everything that we do in a company level, we try to do it twice. So it actually accommodates more time zone, and you can kind of pick the window that is more suitable for you. That's a big one. We have a global calendar, which I love, which kind of shows all the holidays across all the different religions and the different countries. And you can see for every country if they're off. And it also syncs into Slack. So Slack is our office. Everything happens within Slack, and you can see when someone is OOO. You can see when someone has a holiday. So it's fully reflected. And then you can decide whether you really need that person. You're going to ask that urgent question, or it's going to wait for another day.
I love that. That's very considerate. And Jared, a hub staff, 17 years in the corporate field, I think has some of the best flexibility culture I've experienced. And so could you share some concrete examples of how you've built this culture? One that protects personal time, but doesn't slow down the business. What are the specific kind of norms and rules, and how do you reinforce it so it actually sticks?
Yeah, I think our culture is similar to Deal's. We do like, I'll add that we're big on consistency. We like, if you're an early riser, maybe you want to start work at 6 a.m. or 6:30. We're looking for generally 8 hours per day, similar to what you would work in a virtual, in a regular office. Think of this like your virtual office. And the reason that we say consistency in 8 hours a day in general, one, 8 hours gives us a lot of overlap with the other time zones. So a little bit different if you're working 5 hours one day and 10 another. On that day that you're working five, there just is not enough overlap in some cases to have whether it's a meeting or just synchronous communication or fairly real-time communication over Slack. So we like to see that. We like healthy, sustainable schedules for folks. We want this to be a marathon that they run successfully, not a sprint. So 8 hours generally per day, Monday through Friday. We don't love seeing people have to work over the weekends. We do that very infrequently here at Hubstaff. Sometimes we've seen folks that will work a shorter day during the week and then catch up over the weekend. We kind of try to shun that and say, hey, just work, have that time to reset, have the family time, have those clear boundaries. I think it's something we started to, explore as a global workforce during COVID was how do we set these boundaries in place of when I am done with work, used to be your feet hit the parking lot, leaving work from the office, and you could start to switch your mind from work. Now it's much harder that you're working from home. You've got your phone on you all the time. You can see notifications coming in your evening. I think you need to set some boundaries around that. So 8 hours per day, 5 days a week, whatever your schedule is, you determine that. It's flexible, but try to keep it consistent throughout, the months and years. And then keep this in mind when you're inviting folks as well. So especially within your team, you'll get a sense of what their consistent schedule is like, and you'll know when they're generally would be working and when they're not working. And please take that into account. So don't invite somebody from Romania to a 4 p.m. Eastern, daylight savings time call where you're asking them to be on a call at 10, 11 o'clock at night their time. We really don't want to do that to folks unless it's an urgent issue and can't be avoided. That would be a blue moon event. Call it once a year that might happen. So most of our calls are happening between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that tends to work outside, other than APAC. That works for Europe. That works for some of your early risers on the West Coast here in the US. So it generally works itself out. And I'll add this last point. I don't think people should try to time shift their schedule too much. Again, it's not sustainable. If you're in Europe and you're having to work until 7:30 at night, that's dinner time with your family. That's helping your kids with homework time. That's not, you're giving up too much to try to accommodate the schedules of people in America at that point. So we really do try to create a sustainable model that you work within your time zone, your natural time zone where you live.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we don't want to
Yep.
burn ourselves out, right? Thank you, Jared. And I can attest to all of that being completely true. Okay, I'm going to jump into tool sprawl and toggle tax. And the toggle tax, it applies. So in the chat, I've got a couple questions for you. Before I rattle off the intro here, I'd like to know if anyone can add the number of tools they think they use of a day week in the chat for me, please. So what we're seeing in our data is 18 apps a day, up to 36 if you're an SEO in an SEO optimization role, just to give you a little bit of scale, differentiation there. So I'm not saying that's the problem, right? The problem starts when the stack grows without structure. When work becomes this constant, okay, what tool do I need to use now? Where do I need to go to share an update or a decision? Where do I need to go to find the last version of the truth on this project? We don't want to be asking ourselves those questions. We don't want to be updating information in multiple tools. So at scale, when we're doing that, that turns into what we call a coordination tax. Decisions really need to happen in one place. They need to be documented in one place and they need to be acted on in one place. If we don't do that, the result is confusion, it's duplicated effort, it's uncertainty about what's actually true and current. So, the question isn't what is in your stack. The question is, have you built a system of work people can actually follow productively? So my next question, let's have a look in the chat. Someone said about 8 to 10. My next question is, what is causing the most friction right now? Is it finding decisions? Is it finding documents? Is it duplicated work happening in parallel? Please answer in the chat. And whilst you're doing that, Jared, I'll ask you a question. If you joined a large organization, for example, Deel, and you found their tools are all over the place, decisions are happening in direct messages, tasks are being tracked in different systems, documents are scattered everywhere, what would you focus on in the first 30 days to clean this up?
Yep. I think number one, setting up clear document storage. It's very easy in a Google Workspace or Office 365 environment to not know where things are getting filed away. You saw this document, can't remember the title of it. Now you're ready to start working based off of that. You've got to go search for it. If you have a taxonomy set up in just a folder structure where all the stuff is going, and you could then go and find it based on that, I think it's very helpful. It's honestly something we've gotten a bit away from here at Hubstaff that's on our radar that we need to move back to because at many times I feel like I don't know where to go get this document. I have to Slack somebody and go, hey, can you shoot me the link to this? So we've gotten a little bit worse there. Having one PM tool, I think that's critical. You don't want to have tasks duplicated in multiple places. So consolidate at least at the team or department level on one PM tool. Different departments may choose different PM tools for their own reasons, but within the department have one. And then I think doing a full tool audit. If you're coming in brand new, maybe you're a new manager or department head, look at what's being used today, ask questions around, do we need all of this, especially in the SEO, SEM space, there can tend to be a lot of overlap between those tools. Do we really need all of those? Can we consolidate? Can we turn on a module in one of them that covers what this other tool was doing? So bringing the number of tools down through an audit could be good.
And what wouldn't you do in that first 30 days? Because it is quite an overwhelming task if you do walk into, a spaghetti string of tools and documents and things like that. So what wouldn't you do in that first 30 days?
So my answer is more not so much around the tools, but I would not be changing the reporting metrics or KPIs. I think the goals and what the team is trying to achieve in that first 30 days, leave that unchanged, even if you're thinking, you'll want, that's probably the area where people will see that as the biggest change that happens if you do that in the first 30 days. It's more, let's get the house in order. Let's make sure we're getting streamlined and efficient. Then let's talk about what sort of outcomes do we want? Do we want to change the outcome? Do we want to change the goals and KPIs that we're going for? But initially, it is let's get our arms around what our processes are and getting the friction removed from those processes.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to tip the boat over, right? We just want to clean it up in the first instance.
Yeah.
Okay. Noah, when Deel evaluates a new tool, I know you have a very strict procurement path, from a request to an approval. And once it's in, how does that get embedded into Deel's central knowledge system so people actually find decisions and can work?
So we have a strict procurement process, as you've mentioned. It kicks off with a business case. There is a fair template of this business case explaining what the tool is required for, why this tool specifically, why our other tools are not a good solution, and it has to be signed off by the department head before we even kick off the process. Then the first stage is actually, can we engage with that tool in terms of compliance, fin crimes, credit control, et cetera, legal, just to make sure that we can even engage with that company. And only after that, we get to the budget versus ROI question. Again, evaluating, does the cost of this tool justifies the ROI that it's going to bring? And then, and this is the critical step, we have actually an associate director Someone from the go-to-market team, processes and systems team, who his entire job is really to evaluate, do we need this tool? And he asks a bunch of questions around, again, what is this tool going to do? Do we have another tool in our stack that we could actually expand and use instead of this? Because we default into using existing contract and existing tools instead of adding new tools to the stack. If we add that tool to the stack, how we're going to integrate it? Is it going to connect via integration and API to Slack, Zendesk, Gong, you name it, one of our existing tools in Slack? Or is it going to be standalone, kind of isolated? So really asking all the technical strategic questions around, do we have to use this tool? And then really evaluating kind of competitive companies and other offerings in the market. And only after that evaluation, we're probably going to engage with the tool. The tool is only going to be granted access to those users that has been defined as users needing the tool. AKA, if this is a sales tool, only salespeople are going to get access to it. And if you're outside of sales and you want to get access to the tool, such as, let's say, I want to get access to Gong to view client conversations, we have a Slack app called Lumos or App Store, and you have to ask for access, and it goes through your manager and procurement to make sure that you're eligible to get a seat. And also it's time capped. So if you haven't used the tool for either 30 or 90 days, I think it depends on the tool, your access is being revoked.
That's so clever, that extra layer of recency. What was the name of this role of this individual that looks at this entire process?
Go-to-market processes and systems.
So is this who is owning the way work gets done across the company?
When you say work gets done, what do you mean?
The overall operating model. So are they kind of owning which tool is used for Deel to
they're in
operate?
charge of choosing the tools, and then we have a separated procurement department who is in charge more on the negotiation part, contracts, and compliance.
Right. And then who
So it is
owns the
separated
way?
from, sorry?
It's a little bit separated. And so who actually owns the way work gets done within that tool? Is that at the team level or is that set at the leadership level as well?
That, depending on the tool, I would say if it's a major tool, then it's in part of this team. And if it's a smaller tool used by a specific team or something that is more niche, such as Figma used by product design,
Yeah.
then the specific team defines the process.
Right. Amazing. Okay, so I think that brings us to our final segment, which is the tool of all tools, AI. Now, I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about how we're all, I believe, still very much experimenting. What's really missing in a lot of the research I'm doing, and a lot of the examples I'm seeing out in market, for the most part, is the repeatable workflows that are genuinely saving us time and reducing workload and producing quality work. So for global teams, the real challenge is finding this high impact use case that can improve focus and coordination without adding more tools to the mix. So right now in the chat, if you could please share what's standing in the way for you right now. Is it proving ROI with AI? Is it maintaining quality? Is it managing data risk? Or is it getting that consistent AI adoption across the team? What's holding us back with AI? And while we see that come through in the chat, Jared, most teams are really stuck with AI. It's a personal productivity hack, but not really a systems upgrade. Can you give us 3 examples of where you feel AI has really been impactful within Hubstaff?
Yep, certainly. So the three examples I'm going to give are not they're not personal productivity examples. I think everybody is finding, I think that's a harder problem to solve, first of all, in training folks in how to use AI personally throughout their workday effectively. I think if you looked at hub staffers, it would really run the full spectrum from folks that don't use it at all the way up to ones that are using agents and giving them tasks to go complete that it is almost wholly completing on its own. So that's still very much a work in progress. I don't have a lot of concrete examples on how to train folks up on personal productivity. But what we are focused on is how do we apply it at the company level think about a department, think about customer support. How can it be applied by the head of customer support to improve response times, to remove replying to some of the more grunt work or mundane requests that come in? Hey, I can't access my account. Right, you need to reset your password. Have you tried these three basic steps? AI is really good at doing those sorts of things. So we have tried to look for areas where we can inject AI within specific departments, and customer support has been our biggest win. We have a live chat that you can talk to, this chatbot that can answer pretty much all the tier one customer support requests that come in. It is trained up on thousands of tier one questions that we received over the years. It's able to handle them at an 82% containment rate. So very few of them end up needing to get escalated to an actual live person. And we find the customer satisfaction rates very high because folks are getting the right answer very quickly. They're no longer having to wait and talk to an agent. It could take up to 20 or 30 seconds to get connected with an agent. By that time, our live chatbot can oftentimes solve the problem for you. And if you do need to get handed off to a person, it's a very seamless experience to do that. So customer support has been revolutionized for us by using AI. It's also now drafting emails that the support reps can now review, add to it, massage it, and then send it off. And that's covering at least half the work that they were having to do before of writing it from scratch. Engineering is using it to review pull requests. We're also using it as a co-pilot while writing code. I think we are getting more skilled at the engineering level on how to do that. I think the models are also improving quite a bit every 6 months. The context windows are getting much larger, so it can keep a lot more of the code base inside of its context window while you're trying to use it. So we're seeing big improvements there through PR reviews and co-piloting. And then the last part is prospect summaries for the sales reps. So sales reps are bouncing from call to call throughout the day. We now have an AI feature that is preparing a summary for them. So it is very much the three highlighted points that you need to know right as you're hopping on a call with a new prospect. What does their company do? What sort of pain points might they be having? How big of a company are they? What industry are they in? You get this little brief as soon as you're hopping on the call. So just little things where we can do it on a very department by department level. That's what we're focused on right now.
Yeah, really strong use cases. Noah, have you any concrete examples you can share from Deal's side?
Sure. A really cool example I've tackled today is expense management. Workers can actually submit their expenses via Deel, and you can imagine the volume of those expenses. So anything from mileage or car in Singapore to a meal in Zimbabwe could be expense, and it needs to be checked whether it's compliant and do we have all the documents and data that we need to approve it. So instead of doing it manually, like we used to, it's now 90 something percent scraped by AI, actually with better results and less mistakes than by humans. So it really sped up the process of expenses.
That's a great example. Everyone hates doing expenses. Okay. I can see in the chat, and I think this is a really big question for most people. And I'm going to throw this out to both of you. Maybe Jared, you could kick us off. How would you turn AI from this scattered experimentation into a global operating capability across functions and time zones? Like, how can you inspire the team to start thinking about it differently? Jared, can you kick us off with that one?
Yep. So for me, it is, I think having a North Star, sort of mission or phrase that you can share with everybody so they can rally around that. And as I thought of this, I think it's AI-led KPI improvements. You've heard a lot about Deal's KPIs. I think that's fantastic. We also try to do OKRs and KPIs and letting people know what is it that they ultimately need to be achieving. And AI is only helpful if it is helping you achieve that faster, more efficiently, better. So let's not lose focus on what we're trying to do here. Let's figure out how AI can create a measurable improvement around those KPIs. And I think that centers it and keeps you from this boil the ocean sort of approach of all the things you could be using it for. You can have a conversation with AI to talk about how should I approach trying to rank for these keywords, but it is, you've got to be driving towards that result the whole time you're trying to use it. What are two or three things you could be doing that directly relate back to getting to your KPI faster or achieving a bigger number?
Yeah, I love that. That really tops it on its head. Rather than trying to find it to just speed up simple tasks, how can you improve your KPIs or hit your KPIs with AI influence? That's a great one. Noah, how
Yep.
about yourself?
So I'm glad you're asking. We actually lived through that transition, as you can imagine. A few months ago, we had multiple AI tools running in parallel. We had our internal deal assistant, Alicia, which is AI based. We had team level experiments. We had browser based automation tools, engineering teams doing their own thing. I would say three moves really changed that to make sure that we're operating on a global scale. The first thing, we embedded Alicia, our internal AI tool, into Claude Desktop. We combined Alicia's deep knowledge into Deal's internal systems with Claude reasoning and multi-tool connectors. So we actually connected the combined tool to the tools that we use every day: Google Drive, Gong, Zendesk, and Slack. And instead of replacing Alicia, replacing the tool that we've built, we've actually made it stronger. So now every employee has a single AI tool that they can use and is really, really strong and is actually learning the deal knowledge every single day. So we're empowering ourselves with this in a single, very, very strong tool. Second, we built something, and this is a bit technical, something that is called an MCP, a Model Context Protocol layer, which is kind of the company's AI operating surface. We set up a company KPI for every product team. 100% of all product teams need to expose their API to that single MCP kind of surface layer. So every AI agent that is built by every product team can actually leverage all the capabilities of all the other teams. So now we have people building AI agents across payroll, HR, you name it, across Deal, and everyone can kind of leverage everyone's capabilities from that same layer. So again, enabling all the information for everyone. And the third thing, as Jared said, we really made sure that we're setting up very aggressive KPIs that you must use AI to achieve. Otherwise, there's just no way to achieve them. And that really incentivizes people to use AI. And we also gave them tools to how to learn and how to leverage AIs. We had multiple hackathons across Q1 to really kind of spark curiosity and give people just the technical experimentation of using the Claude plus Alicia AI tool.
Wowzers, that sounds incredible.
It
How
was it was
amazing.
really fun. It was really
Yeah.
fun, yeah.
And is adoption high?
It is because one, people are curious, and I think they see the magic. Once they play with AI, they really see the value of it, and they see how much it can contribute to their work. And two, we essentially made it semi-mandatory by putting it in the KPIs and making sure that you must use AI to achieve your KPIs. We even set AI usage as a KPI,
Wow,
so you can see high usage indeed.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Alrighty, so we're at the stage of our webinar where we're going to throw it out to the participants for some questions. So please, Megan, I don't know if there's any in the chat that we can kick off with, or if there are some new ones that people want to share through. I've been trying to skim through as we're progressing and adding them in as we've been going along.
Okay.
There's been some great conversation happening in the chat. Thank you, everyone. I think we've been kind of talking about things as we've been going. A lot of chatter around AI, as you can imagine. One question or one problem, I guess, that was presented was, in thinking about AI, one of the hardest things is proving that ROI. Jared, Noah, any thoughts around like that ROI conversation if you're trying to prove it in a project or bringing it on in-house? How might you take that to your leadership or board about the ROI of AI?
I can speak for us and say that let's say we measure AI ROI the same across the company. So at Deal, we measure throughput or task per person, per headcount, per worker. And you can see with AI exactly that number increasing. So the number of throughput a single person, a single worker can do. But it's not just about sheer volume. It's, as Jared mentioned, also about quality. So let's say support defect rate. How much of the support now you can answer more support chats, but how many of those have a high CSAT, for example? So it's both about volume and quality, and you can see AI increasing both of those measures very drastically.
Yeah, I would just second that. I think whatever the AI initiative is that you are using it for, identify what those metrics are that you want to measure it on. I think that's the general sense of how we look at, the return on investment for us is are we able to keep headcount within the support team steady? Are we not needing to hire more support reps because now the bot is able to handle a lot of those basic questions that are coming in that were taking up a lot of time? The answer is yes to that, and we can quantify that. We report out on that. We look at it, we trend it, forecast it. Those are the things that I recommend you do wherever you're using it. If it's your development team, look at time to merge, look at number of pull requests that are getting submitted, look at the defect rate, how many bugs are making it into staging or production. Have measurable, whatever the metrics are that are important to you within that function, within the department, within the company, have those in mind and center the AI initiative around that. So it's very clear if it is working or not. And, I think then you can start to adapt AI to what that problem is. It's not there is AI, therefore find ways to use it. It is here are the things we're trying to achieve within our company and see where AI can plug into that. Don't let AI be leading the cart here. It's the other way around.
On the AI topic still, there were several people who chimed in and said that it can be hard knowing when to bring AI into a project. Like, is this something that we should try? We should try to implement workflows on and get this figured out. Or for, speed and just getting things done, do we just keep going the way that we always have? I think, Noah, you talked about Deal's kind of methodology around the importance of AI and using it. I mean, is that kind of for you, Noah and Jared, is that kind of the leg you stand on here? Like, we need to start figuring out how it goes. So if there is room for it in a project, maybe we spend that extra time and figure it out. How are you guys thinking about that with your teams today?
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead,
No.
Jared. No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go after.
So I think the hackathon concept is great. We also did that in the last few months here at Hubstaff. There's a proficiency that needs to be gained. There needs to be a room and a space allocated within the company to go and learn these things and play with them. People are not all AI experts right now. So it is take something that has friction in it that you think could be improved through the use of AI, and we're going to spend 2 days doing a hackathon where you get to play around with, can you improve it? Can you adapt AI to help solve that problem or build a workflow? But without that time and space being allocated, likely you'll be stuck in the mode of, yeah, we don't have time to do it. It probably could be helpful, but we just need to get this project done. And you'll keep saying that for all of these projects without really getting over the hurdle of now finally using AI.
I'd say for us, and this is a very similar answer, we had our leadership offsite a few weeks ago, and one of our board members told us AI is no longer an option, it's a necessity. It's here and it's a must. You have to use it or you'll be behind. So I would say for every project, I would try AI. I would experiment, try it and learn as they go. Is it the right tool? Is it not? Is it not the right thing? But I would absolutely make it default and see. And a lot of people have tried AI a few months or a few weeks back. You'll be surprised by the speed it's evolved and how much easier it is now, even compared to a few weeks prior. So just give it a go. Claude is incredible. I use Claude personally. and see if it could bring you value for pretty much anything. Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to Peter in the chat who said that he's using Claude to pull Hubstaff data, to put all of that in there and then create those kind of performance dashboards, like really quick glances for his team. So shout out to Peter for using AI in Hubstaff. That's great. Another question that I have, I'm going to send this one over to, hold on, I lost it. I'm sorry. Stick with me. This one I'll send to Jared. What's the most common belief leaders have about productivity that's actively making things worse?
Yeah. I think and this is one that we run into a lot with folks when we're telling them about Hubstaff, and they're realizing Hubstaff is really good at showing how people are working. And I think there are a lot of workforces that are lacking that information. The majority of companies can't really see how folks work. You see the outputs, you see what they're delivering, you see a task is completed, you know how long the task took, and you see the final output and outcome from it. But what you maybe don't know is what is the ceiling for your workforce? How much more efficiently could they be working? How much more could we do without asking people to work more hours? Just work smarter, not harder. You really don't have a good way, as we're talking a lot about KPIs today and metrics and using AI to improve things. It is hard to know how folks are structuring their day. What tools are they using throughout the day? And spotting who your top performers are, understanding what makes them top performers, and then being able to model that to the rest of the workforce. That's the piece that I think is missing in the productivity discussion today.
Perfect. Noah, I have one for you now. What's the most common belief that leaders have about global teams that creates that kind of accidental, always on culture?
Great question. That leaders has, or that anyone has? That leaders have.
Either way, I think start maybe with leaders or that anyone has.
I would say, and this is going back to the beginning of the webinar, that flexibility equals being always on. It's not true. I think being flexible gives you the choice whether you're on, because you could be on or you want to be on, but you don't have to. I think as we noted in this webinar, setting boundaries and focus time actually increases productivity and not vice versa. So just remembering that flexibility does not mean no boundaries. And if you want productivity, there has to be a balance always.
Love that. Okay, one last thing for both of you, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Kylie. What's the one thing that you want everyone to leave today with? Noah, I've got you. You just responded, so I'll let you go first. But the biggest takeaway that you think people can leave with today?
What I just said, I think.
There. I was like, you just summed it up perfectly.
Exactly.
We can leave it at that.
Remote is incredible. It has changed my personal life and thousands of people around me. I think that's honestly how people should be working and living and living their lives. It does bring a lot of positivities and a lot of flexibility, which I couldn't value more on my personal life. But again, setting up the boundaries and finding the office norms within that structure will make sure that it's most ideal and effective.
Love that. We believe the same thing. Jared?
Yeah, I'll kind of second that. I think the work life balance is achievable in a remote environment. It can be achieved, and I think you all are hearing examples of that today of how two organizations are doing that. And I think that's probably that along with finding people that work well in a remote environment. That's also on a spectrum similar to using AI. Setting up some of these guidelines, some of these cultural norms within the company will help guide people towards being effective and successful working remotely. and never wasting time commuting to the office again. It's a beautiful thing. And, I could never go back to working in an office. And I think companies that hire remotely, they have a real advantage to get to the best talent around the world because of that.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Patty,
Megan.
back to
Thank you,
you.
Noah. Jared, I'm going to wrap this up in 30 seconds or maybe less. You're going to get our 2026 benchmark report, everyone, plus a couple bonus PDFs with some benchmarks by teams and actually a global time zone overlap playbook for those that don't have that implemented at the minute. So my 3 takeaways from this wonderful session are flexibility with boundaries. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and focus and AI are non-negotiable. Thank you so much for joining us. Have an epic day, and we'll see you again soon.